Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to A to Z Running.
And we're on. Our sound is now in your ears, which means it's A to Z Running with Zach.
And I'm Andy. Our episode this week is with Joanna Stevens, and we talk about how she had a dream as a little girl to go to the Olympics and how she's been chasing that dream ever since. It's a great and it's an inspiring story, so we hope that you'll come away invigorated with your own dreams and passions. But first, let's talk about the world of running. We're going to talk about a Tuesday tip from Runner Space brought to you by Mike Smith. He talks about relationships, and we'll put a link into our blog post. And it's a great, inspiring little video, little tip on how really to motivate your athletes if you're a coach. But I found it to be personally a motivating thing and to help me kind of think through some of those relationships that I have. So they're against your team, yourself, and your competition. And one thing that he said that I think I've been saying a few times here in A to Z Running is we do it in the presence of others, running that is, but not in comparison to others.
Except for me. I definitely do everything in comparison to others because I'm always trying to beat everyone else around me.
Yeah, but the
Especially
idea
the ones
is
that
you can't control other people. So the idea then is to not compare yourself to others in competition, but rather show up, do your best, beat your best times from your own previous standards. For our main topic, we are talking to Joanna Stevens. I'm really excited to introduce her to you because I had a chance of getting to know her this year because we both were training and going to compete at the Olympic Trials Marathon together. She is originally from Arizona, then was in Florida, and now she lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She competes with Gazelle Elite Racing out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she is coached by Dathan Ritzenheim. And she has some great PRs. She has a great 5K PR. She'd like to get under 16, 3K, 9:38, half marathon, 1:14:56. And she did win her debut marathon at Bayshore, which is one of our favorite. We talk about it all the time. Yes, she won that and she got the course record to qualify her for the Olympic trials.
Was that the course record?
Yeah.
Nice. Didn't know that. Great work. So we're excited to share with you her story. And, I think most fascinating about how we kind of framed it was, you hear the criticisms about starting your runners too young and how it can potentially just kind of burn them out. A lot of just running is not super interesting to kids, but she would disagree. Right. And after starting very young and still feeling the fire burn and being successful and running personal bests even to this day and beyond.
Yeah, she's run through some valleys and run at the heights. She's run through it all. And you can follow Joanna at Joanna Runner on Instagram as well. So let's get to our interview. Hi, Joanna. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to do something a little bit differently here, Joanna, than we've done in the past. We were just talking about this a moment ago, but for our listeners' sake, we want to tell or capture your story in the sport of running. And I think especially during this time, everyone's kind of just sitting around looking for inspiration, looking for encouragement, because it's a little bit harder to find right now than it usually is, in a normal everyday life, which we're not experiencing at the moment. So we wanted to get you on here because you have a great story and you've been through some highs, you've been through some lows, and we want to talk through some of those things and kind of capture the essence of the experience as it's been for you so far.
And we just heard a little Gazelle Elite Racing live where your teammates spoke very highly of you, and that was really cool. I think there was a few things that were said I want to say. Okay, so Lewis says that you're a hero. High praise coming from Lewis. And Bryce also was agreeing, and Leah too. And Leah specifically was talking about your grit and your determination. And I mean, I know that from just your resume of running and your life story. We've gotten a chance to run together a few times and unpack some of life together. So, and of course, the Olympic trials that we got to share too. That was really cool.
That was definitely an experience of grit, of needing to persevere and determination in struggle. That was a tough course. That was a tough race.
Yeah.
We want to get to that, but before we do, what are you doing right now, Joanna, in the sport of running?
Yeah, so I'm just still continuing on training like I normally would. I took a little bit of downtime, like I think everybody did after the trials course, and started building back up again like normal. Still doing workouts, still training, I'm still working since I work as a nurse, so still pretty much sticking to my normal schedule. So that's been good to have that. Lifting routines have changed a little bit, and the fact that I'm lifting at home now, so having to find different ways to lift. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
So I have to mention about that whole lifting and being creative and stuff. I'm going to put that in the blog post that's associated with this episode, because there is a really amazing video that Joanna and her husband Austin, who's a pro baseball player, by the way, created of them doing some like body weight couple exercises. So it's pretty amazing. Zach
I
and
have not seen this. I don't know what she's talking about.
Well, we were gonna try to do like a version of Nailed It, you know.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I think we're gonna try.
Wait, I don't know what
do
you're
that
talking
for
about.
This episode.
What are you talking about?
I'll show you later. Actually, everyone can see it. So I'm gonna be posting in the blog post. That was super impressive. Very creative.
Very nice. So that's kind of the story right now, is trying to find creative ways to do the kind of work you would normally do.
And you can tell our listeners and Zach about it if you want.
Yeah, it was just something that my husband and I came up just for fun, where he's lifting me for the most part. Normally he lifts a lot heavier than me, so he probably would actually need somebody more, about 150 pounds more than me. but it was fun, and yeah, a pretty good workout.
Very nice. So I'm curious, what's the next thing for you if you can confidently target something at this time? Because obviously most of us have had, the cancellations and everything else. Like, we just don't know exactly when the next race for sure will be. But what are your plans? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't have a specific race that's in mind, but I know that we had talked about originally I was going to run the 25K, the Fifth Third Amway 25K championships, and I know that got pushed back to October, so I still have that kind of as a plan for maybe October, somewhere in there. I know that originally I was planning to do another marathon around that time, so maybe it'll fit into my schedule, but as of right now, I think we're just going to keep training, doing strength training, getting stronger, and then hopefully by the fall, maybe get a couple half marathons in, and then try and do another marathon sometime in the fall.
All right.
So you have a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
Many marathons are happening in the fall.
Yeah.
Yes, there are many, and more than even expected, since they all got postponed till the fall.
Yep.
So let's go back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning.
Back to the beginning. What is the beginning of running for you?
I started running actually when I was 6 years old. My mom was just like, hey, pick a sport, any sport. And I told her I wanted to run. She was like, is that even a sport for a 6-year-old? And I was like, I don't know, but it's what I want to do. So we found out that my local school, I was living in Arizona at the time, had a running club, and we'd run for these little plastic feet. And I guess every like 5 to 10 miles you would get a little plastic foot, and I was like, I'm gonna get the most plastic feet. So that's kind of how I started my running career.
That is awesome. The little plastic feet.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Were they the same distance every time, or did they switch it up?
Most of the time we did 2 miles, which I guess for a 6-year-old was, a good amount. I think I raced the 2 mile is what I started out racing around that age. And I don't have any idea what my actual time was around then. I just remember I lined up with, they raced us all together. I think it was like 6 through 8-year-olds or something. And then they had like 8 to 10-year-olds, stuff like that. And they just lined me up. It was my first race ever. I was wearing a t-shirt and like a pair of shorts. I don't even think I had my hair in a ponytail. It was just down. I was just ready to go. And I had these like bunny socks on like up to my knees and stuff, and just started running. And I had no idea when I was going to finish or anything. And I just remember everybody yelling, "You're winning, you're winning." And I was like, what? I won this race? I don't even know. So
Wow.
That was kind of my first race experience.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. What kind of emotions does a 6-year-old Joanna experience when you're running? And so running in general, but also that race, like what's the emotional state there?
I just remember thinking like, just keep going. You know, I had no idea that I was even like in the front of the race, because they started it in like 10-15 second increments. So I was back from like the 10-year-olds, but I started passing a lot of them. So I had no idea that I was actually way in front of my race. So I just remember finishing, and you get like a little blue ribbon, and I was really pumped. And my parents were just like, oh, maybe she's actually good at this, you know? And I just really wanted to run from a young age. I don't really know where it came from. It was just part of my life from really, I can't remember much before 6. So I just remember I just wanted to race. And we moved a couple years later to the Florida Keys, and they didn't have a team really down there. And I kind of helped to start up our middle school team down there, which was really fun. We ran in our school's basketball jerseys. So
That's awesome. You always get the big baggy mesh jerseys with those things are great.
Yeah.
So as stories go, the kind of the initial excitement and the things that happened that helped to build that. How did you gain momentum in the sport? What was that like over the years or those early years?
So I kept running. My dad was a huge part of my life, my whole life, and he would bike next to me a lot of the time, which was really awesome because my dad was really sick from when I was really about age 10 on. He had a liver transplant when I was 14, and really a lot of the only thing that he had the energy to do was to come to my practices and my races. So when he wasn't in the hospital 5-6 days a week, he was always at almost every single one of my practices and all my races, no matter what. And same with my mom too, which was a huge deal for me.
Yeah.
So when did they start getting it? Was it that first race where they saw you win? And how did your relationship with running and the relationship with your parents, how did that evolve, so to speak?
Yeah. Well, they kind of have always told me that you can do anything as long as you really believe in yourself. And they just kind of encouraged me with whatever I wanted to do. So they said, hey, if you want to run, then you run and you never give up. And my dad kind of instilled that into me, that like, no matter what, you will finish that race. Like, just keep going. And he was like, you'll go as far as you want to go. So I just kind of always had that in my head. And I told him, I was like, even after that race, I was like, Dad, I want to be an Olympian one day. And you know how a 6-year-old always says that, but I really like took that with me throughout my entire running career, really.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So the dream started early, started young.
Yeah, it did. It really did. I don't really ever remember. even if I ask most of my friends from 8-10 years old or so on, they're just like, yeah, you've wanted to be an Olympian basically since you were born. I don't know. It's just kind of always been there for me, and it really helped. My dad passed away when I was 19, and it really, really helped me through that time. And I wear a gold ring that was my dad's with me on all of my runs, and it's kind of my way of having him there with me. And it kind of helped me through when I was really struggling, even at the Olympic trials, just wearing that ring. I was like, he's with me right now. So, yeah.
Yeah,
He'd be so proud. Yeah,
right.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's so hard.
Yeah.
Certainly you can't imagine the struggle and difficulty, but it's, to be able to carry something with you like that, and emotionally, and actually, that kind of the physical piece there.
And that you still share that dream together.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's been a really good journey. Of course, I've had my ups and downs, had different struggles, but there's never been any time where I was like, I don't want to run.
That's amazing, because you've been doing it for so long too. Let's dwell on that for a moment, Joanna. What are some of the struggles? What are some of the kind of the crises in the sport that maybe, as you say, it didn't stop you from wanting to do the sport, but maybe it shook your confidence or it discouraged you in some way? What were some of those experiences?
Yeah, I would say in high school, I never really had any injuries or anything specifically running related, but I had a lot going on with my mom. Also got sick for a large part of me being in high school, and both of my parents and him going through the liver transplant and different things like that. And I would say that took a huge emotional toll on me. So a lot of the times not being able to sleep, or my dad was on an oxygen tank for a long time. He had a lot of different health issues going on and different things like that. And it was just like a really hard time for me to see them both so sick, and just like keep trying to train and get better and stuff. But it always really helped when like they would come and see how like my dad's lips were blue and his skin was turning yellow, and they had actually given him only a few months to live before he got the liver transplant. And to just be able to go out there and like have him be there even through that was really cool.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I went to the U.S. Naval Academy out of high school, and he was really, really excited, came to that. And that was about a year before he passed away. And for him to be able to see me race there, and even though I was like sleep deprived and only sleeping 2 hours a day and everything, it was awesome.
Do you think that being a plebe was helpful in endurance sports in your mentality? Do you think it aided in that at all?
Yeah, it did. Just my whole first year, it was really hard, and we went through a lot of different mental and physical tests there. And I guess it helped me to realize like how much you really can go through and not give up.
Yeah, and I'll just again reiterate that even in an experience like that, and you still didn't question running, like you were still committed despite that grates on you, not just physically. You mentioned like the sleep depravity and such, which takes an emotional and a mental toll too. It's just becomes harder to focus and harder to be disciplined, and yet there you were, and here you are still.
Yeah, I had times where I wasn't running as well, but I still kept believing that like, hey, just because you're sleeping 2 hours a day right now and you're studying most of the day and you're still training, and I was like, you still have the talent there, and you just have to keep believing in yourself and realizing that you have more to give. And maybe at that time you're going through even a whole year of struggles, but you always come out on the other side of it.
Yeah. So after your time at the Naval Academy, you took a little different direction then. What were some of the highlights that helped you build confidence in the running?
Yeah, I transferred to the University of South Alabama. I'd never been to the South or anything before, and I wasn't sure what to do because I had never really actually been on my own my whole first year at the Naval Academy. It's not really like real college. So I got there and been disciplined doing my own schedules and coming up with everything. So it was just nice to have like control of my own life a little bit and be able to run and meet my teammates and everything. And at that point, my dad was extremely sick. He passed away after my first semester at South Alabama. But I had a team that they were all a Christian team, and that was my first time where I really got to go to church, and I gave my life to Christ, and it was like a really emotional time for me and helped me really get through my dad passing away. And right after my dad passed away, I actually came back a week later and started running again. And I actually ran a PR in the 5K by over 30 seconds, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it was a little bit just me really wanting to get back into running. And I guess I believed my dad, obviously. I believe my dad went to heaven and that he was looking down on me in my races. And it was just a good experience for me overall.
Yeah. So what carry down that line of thought still? What continued to grow the sport for you and in you in those years following?
Yeah, I just I had a teammate there that was right around my same times, and I started getting a lot better after I PR'd there. I just kept training, wanting to. I still had that goal in my head of eventually making an Olympic team, and I knew that I was way far off from that, but I didn't really care. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it. I don't care what anybody says or what anybody says about my times. And I ended up in my entire time at South Alabama shaving about a minute and 20 seconds off of my 5K PR from when I went into from when I started there, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So tell her, I mean, I have your stats. I've looked you up, but can you tell our listeners what your 5K PR is?
I ran 16:26, which hopefully will continue to take that time down. But
That's
yeah,
so fast.
it's a fun time. My ultimate goal with the 5K is to hopefully break 16 at some point. But
definitely. So what brought you to where you are now? You know, I think because here you are, in a sense, you know, so many people will look at what you're doing, Joanna, and they'll think she's living the dream. You know, you're running professionally, if you will, for Gazelle Elite. You're coached by an Olympian runner himself, and you've got sponsorship type dynamics with, you know, some things with Hoka and some of that kind of situation. But obviously, in your mind, you haven't arrived yet. So we'll get to that. But what kind of set you up for getting to the point where you are now?
Yeah, a lot of it, I would say it was in God's hands, but I met my husband down at South Alabama, and he actually happened to be from Rockford, Michigan, where Dathan was from. And
where I went to high school.
Yes, exactly.
But Austin and I didn't go to school at the same time. I'm a little bit older than him.
Not that much. But yeah, so after we got married, we moved up here, and I started looking for different local runners that ran for colleges around here, such as Grand Valley, Cornerstone, anywhere that I could find good runners, and that ended up leading me to meeting Dathan, who I started training with at the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. You know, so much of these different dynamics, you know, that we talk a lot about relationships, and I appreciate hearing about like that kind of the training partner teammate that you had in college at that time, and how that helped move you forward, and also just the ways that the people around you kind of help in fostering the sport in so many different ways. You know, you think about like even just as you mentioned, Joanna, the connections here to help bring you to Dathan and to help bring you to a kind of a training situation now where you've got like a professional team around you that can help continue to push you forward even more. But even right at the very beginning, you know, as the 6-year-old beating all of the other little kids, you know, and then being able to look up to the older kids and trying to, you know, kind of like aspire toward more still. And, you know, it's present. It's there throughout. That's great.
Yeah, I've had so many people. It's hard to explain it just in a short amount of time, just from high school. And I can't even mention everybody that's just kind of helped to lead me along too, and been there for me to get where I'm at now. And my team now is just incredible with just watching their passion for running and everything too. And they've all helped get me to where I am now.
So I'm wondering, when you had this vision and you continue to have this vision of the Olympics, did you know that you'd be doing the marathon? Or was that a recent development? And do you still have thoughts of other events?
No kid dreams of running the marathon. No way.
I'm just curious where this all came about with the marathon.
Yeah, I never really knew that it was going to be the marathon, but I definitely, even though I ran the mile fast in high school and everything, I knew I wasn't going to be a miler or a 3K runner. I knew that it was going to probably be 10K or marathon, just based on distance training and everything. But after I ran my first marathon, I was like, this actually, it's so painful, but I just want to do another one. I don't know how to describe it.
You know, Zach can't understand that, because when he runs a marathon, he writes off running. He's like, I'm done with it. I'm so done.
I hate it, yeah.
So the fact that you came out of your first marathon, like, immediately wanting more means that you're a marathoner for sure. And I should tell our listeners, or remind you, because I said this in our introduction of Joanna, she won her first marathon and qualified for the Olympic trials. So we can say that she has a strong knack for the marathon distance.
Right on. So I'm curious, and maybe you've already said what it is, but not necessarily in this sense. What do you feel like so far, Joanna, has been the highlight, or in some ways kind of like the biggest turning point in your running career thus far? The moment when you feel like, you know, so many of the things you're working toward came together, and, you know, it's something that you look on fondly.
I have a few different turning points, but I'd say obviously the biggest one that comes to mind in recent times is my first marathon, when I qualified for the Olympic trials and actually realized, like, hey, you're on your way to your dream. That was just an incredible moment for me. But just I would also say just the months of training after meeting Dathan and having him train me for 4, 5, 6 months, and just seeing the improvements in my running that I'd never seen before, and just actually having somebody to guide me in lifting and running daily, and just really have somebody that also cares about your running and your health and stuff. That was a really huge turning point for me, just to see how much I had improved in that amount of time, and seeing just the difference between transitioning out of college to trying to make it as a professional runner.
Yeah, and what kind of what a great time that is when you're, like you mentioned, seeing the improvements and the benefits, and so many instances it's very hard to experience significant growth after college for so many runners, largely because college is kind of that time where you can be in a sense kind of one-track mind focused. You can really devote yourself to it, but you also have the team around you. You have the resources of whatever school or program you're a part of, and then you leave that, and you almost kind of feel like you're just kind of left on your own in some ways. And so I can appreciate hearing how you could still experience that, and especially with the support of someone like Dathan and the group with Gazelle Elite. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really a great experience.
So I'm wondering, because Joanna is essential worker, she had mentioned earlier that she's a nurse, and the toll that your job takes while you're marathon training, I'd love to hear how you balance that.
Yeah, I took I didn't really want to do 12-hour shifts right out of college and try and marathon train. So I do work 8-hour shifts, which does make it a lot easier for me. I do 8-hour evening shifts, so I work from 3 to 11:30 p.m. I work 4 days a week, and on those days I typically will do all of my training just before I go into work, anywhere between 8 in the morning till 2 p.m. and then I head off to work. And then on days where I'm not, I'll do my double runs, my lifts, and my husband comes along with me a lot of the time too. He does not run, but he does drive the car next to me occasionally as my running partner, which is awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. But it's really not that hard to balance. I did nursing school and the Naval Academy, and I had a pretty full packed schedule in college, and so this actually almost felt easier to me to switch to all I've got to do is work. I don't have to study on top of that.
Yeah.
And some days I'm more tired, especially after a few days in a row of working. But it's not too bad.
That's great.
So how do you feel like your life experiences and all that you've shared with us has shaped who you are as a runner?
Yeah, it's I think it's all come down to making me just a stronger runner and more determined, and just realizing that you can run through literally anything. I started running again the day after my dad passed away. It helped get me through that time, and running's a really great coping skill. I'm sure that most every runner knows that, but yeah, I just think overall it made me a stronger athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we can kind of wrap it up, I guess, with one final question. Are we ready for one final question?
Sure.
I'm just curious, Joanna, any insights, like kernels of something you've gleaned or learned that have helped make your experiences successful in recent years or otherwise, but what are kind of the big things or the key things that you feel like help make it work for you?
A lot of it is getting the proper nutrition, I would say. I know that especially in the running community, so many people will not fuel their bodies properly, even leading up to races, and that can really lead to a lot of different things. So fueling my body properly has really, I feel like, helped me with not getting as many injuries, and also just listening to your body and knowing like when you need a day off or if something's wrong, and not trying to just like push through it and ignore it.
Oh, that's good advice.
Yeah. I could probably learn a couple of lessons there as I'm staring at a plate full of chocolate in front of us. But chocolate's not bad for you, right? It's good.
Only occasionally, you know. Yeah, moderation.
We don't do it super moderately. Let's
Nope.
be honest.
Chocolate with every meal. That's the rule.
There's
you guys
sitting on this table.
You guys made the Olympic trials too, so I'd say it's working out for you.
Well, maybe that's part of the reason why I didn't make it this year.
Oh, come on. Well, I was wondering if you happen to have a quote that inspires you.
My favorite quote is just it's a Bible verse. I know it doesn't resonate with everyone, but for me, I just really like Isaiah 40:31. It says, "They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." It's just a really strong verse for me, and something that I repeat myself when I'm having a hard time in a workout or in life in general. So.
Yeah.
There's
What?
so many things that make us weary, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of things, and it seems that you have been lifted up, and you do have wings, and it's been awesome to see you fly. And I look forward to I'm gonna love watching you fly even more to the Olympics. So
Yeah, I gotta say, Joanna, did you know that reference is tattooed on my back? That exact
No.
verse, yes. So I feel the same way about it. That is the kind of the verse that I think about when I think about what running means, kind of in an existential sense for me right now. So I can resonate with that. Appreciate it.
Well, Joanna, thanks so much for joining us. We've loved getting to know you more, and in the past few years, actually just a year, I feel like it's been longer because I feel like I know more about you, and I've experienced so much life with you that I feel like I just know you.
Me too. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
So as you might guess, we found the conversation compelling. We've enjoyed interacting with Joanna over the past year or so now at different points in time, and Andy certainly has mentioned that in the interview. I think she said to Joanna, I've appreciated getting to know you, but more interesting is, the things that you get to know about a person by having an opportunity like this to really just sit down and get into their stories. And, in Joanna's case, it was compelling. It was compelling to hear about how she did go through some serious valleys, and she has gone through some great struggles, but running has been able to play a key supportive role in a lot of different ways. And I think that's a great lesson to all of us, how we can leverage something like this to maintain wellness and health.
Mm-hmm. And when she was saying she's getting very little sleep, she still had that dream in the back of her head, but she got done what she needed to get done for the day and gave herself a little bit of slack when it came to her performances, knowing like I can still achieve big things, even though what I'm going through is really hard right now. And I can't do my best on 2 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too, Andy. And I think for all of us to just remember that we're going to be in times and places and spaces when we gotta let running take a back seat at different points. And I think all of us know that. But one of the most important things is to look at it with intent and think, okay, so if it's going to take a back seat, what can I do now to still maximize whatever time and opportunity I have to do these things, so that when I have opportunity to pursue it with a greater degree of attention again, that I can do so successfully. And I think we saw how Joanna was able to be successful in and around those kinds of experiences. But, it becomes that much harder when we don't have the supports around us. She had a team. She had mentioned kind of a training partner and teammate that helped with some of that too in college. And now she's got the pro team around her as well, which all of those supports are really valuable. Most of us don't have supports like that right now. So in some ways, that's kind of the advice. like finding and creating those experiences. There's so many great running clubs around here. You already know this because we've been talking about them. But those kinds of things help us to just stay dialed in when we have opportunity to get dialed in, so we can be passionate with passionate people.
Oh, I like that. Be passionate with passionate people. That's great. And that's why I like running with Joanna, because she's very passionate. She gets in there, she does the grind through the hard times and in the good times too. So make sure you follow Joanna at Joanna Runner and A to Z Running at A to Z Running on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.